Hari Om. We will chant the third shloka of Bhaj Govindam. Naristanabharanabhidesham drishtva magamohavesham etanmamsavasadi manasi vichintaya varam varam. Bhaj Govindam, Govindam bhaj mudhamate, samprapte sannihite kale, nahi rakshati dukrin karne. In the last session, we looked into the second shloka, wherein Sri Adi Shankaracharya ji, he addresses one of the most popular delusions of humankind, of a jiva. And that delusion was regarding our attitude, our understanding towards wealth in life. So Shankaracharya ji said, Moodha jahihi dhanagama trishnam kuru sadbuddhim manasi vitrishnam yallabhase nija karmo patam vittam tena vinodaya chittam. So in that shloka, Shankaracharya ji said that we give undue importance to wealth in life, misunderstanding it to be the goal of our life, whereas actually it is just a means to bringing about certain conveniences, certain arrangements in life, so that we can then pursue a higher goal in life. So our misunderstanding towards this aspect of life, a very important aspect, yet we don't have the valid understanding towards it, and therefore we end up looking at it as the goal of life and are constantly running and striving to achieving more and more of wealth. So this was a very common delusion of a human being. Delusions or moha, as said in the Shastras, these are imaginary notions towards our life, towards the various aspects of life, towards the goal of life, towards the means of attaining the goal of life. So we have various kinds of delusions, and because we have or we cater to these kinds of delusions or moha, therefore we are clueless about the right direction towards life. And delusions or moha is such a curse of ignorance over us that we end up wasting the prestigious, the privilege of a human life that we have got. And as we see, the delusions are nothing but our imaginary understanding. And because they are imaginary, because they are not valid, therefore, at the end of it, we end up in grief, we end up in suffering, we end up in eternal seeking, we end up in eternal thirst of running behind the various worldly objects and experiences. So it's very important for all of us to realize what is the valid goal of life and what are the valid means to attain that goal. That alone will fulfill our life of a human being. And now here in this third shloka also, we will see that the Acharya, he addresses another very common moha, a very common delusion, and that is towards our understanding about a man and a woman, their relationship with each other, what is the goal of a man and a woman, and how we can achieve that goal in life. So here the Acharya says, Nari stanabharanabhi desham drishtva maga mohavesham etan mamsavasadi vikaram manasi vichintaya varam varam. We must understand that a man and a woman, both of them are two complementary genders of human beings. Or we can look at it from the totality point of view that a male and a female are both complementary genders in all living beings, whether it is animals, it is birds, human beings, or even plants. So we see that any kind of a life, any kind of a living being is made up of these two genders, that is, a male and a female. And what is the reason that God has created these two genders? What is the goal behind it? If we look at it from the physical point of view, then the very natural goal or the natural objective behind creating these two genders or the existence of a man and woman is to bring about, to extend the progeny of creation, to extend the life in creation. And here we see that a man and woman both are complementary to each other to fulfill this objective, that is to bring about children, to give birth to children, and to extend the generations on this earth. And because from the physical point of view, this is a fundamental difference. This is the fundamental complementary difference that we can see in a man and woman that makes up the human body of a man and the body of a woman. And because this is the objective, therefore, at this fundamental level, we also see that the body of a man is made up in a particular manner and the body of a woman is also designed in that fashion to fulfill that objective. And not only this, that the physical aspect of a man and woman are designed by God, are created by God in a manner so that they fulfill the objective of extending the progeny of human race, but also at the emotional level, also at the level of the mental attributes. We see that the man and woman are designed in a manner that they fulfill the objective not only of giving birth to a child, but also nourishing and raising the child, also developing the psyche, the intellect, the sanskars of a child. So it's a very, very sensitive issue. It's a very, very significant subject to understand that these emotional differences, these differences of mental attributes, what is their significance? Why are they so? They are not there to show that a man is more powerful and a woman, by her gentleness, is a weak gender. It is not to show that kind of thing, but both a man and a woman have a definite role to play, and therefore they are very unique in their own way. They have very unique qualities. If we look at a man, he has a unique role of giving birth to a child. The role that a man can play, a woman cannot play, and therefore it is complementary towards each other. And the role that a woman can play to bring up a child, to give birth to a child, a man cannot play that. And therefore, whatever the physical and the mental qualities a woman has, they are extremely important at their own level. And the qualities of a man are also extremely significant at his own level. And therefore, no comparison over here. Here we will see that basically the implication in the shloka is to understand the relationship between a man and a woman, to give respect to this relationship of a man and a woman, to look at this relationship at the realistic level, to understand it at the realistic level, to understand it from the point of view of the goal of a human being, not only a man and woman, but a human being at large. What is the goal of our life? And therefore, here we need to understand this shloka from the point of view that what is the outlook of a man towards a woman and a woman towards a man. What is their understanding of each other? What is their understanding towards their relationship and their goal in life? So, as we see over here, both a man and a woman are unique physically and emotionally. If we look at a man, he appears to be more physically stronger. He appears to be having a more sense of strong individuality. He has the qualities of giving physical security and strength to his family and his partner. He has the quality of going out into the world and facing the various ups and downs at both physical and mental level. Not that a woman doesn't have it, but we see it in a more robust manner in a man. And if we look at a woman is more gentle, she is more caring, she has a more heavier side of emotionality, she is more loving, she is more compassionate, and these are the qualities which God has blessed her with because she is here to play the role of a mother. She gives birth to a child and she raises the child. It's more of her responsibility to raise the child, to pass on good qualities, to pass on sanskars. And therefore, she has been adorned with, she has been blessed with such lovely qualities of love and care. I read a quotation which said that God could not make himself available everywhere as God, and therefore he created a mother. Actually, it's not that God is not there everywhere, and we need to look at God in some form as we see in the Puranas. But God is basically pervading everything. But if we look at it from the point of view of the qualities of which we see in Ishvara, that is bringing about a creation and giving love and taking care of the creation and having such qualities of compassion and understanding, all these lovely qualities, all these are more predominantly seen in a woman. So we get to see a very clear reflection of Ishvara in a mother. And so many types of poetry, so many types of literature, they all compare the mother to God. In fact, it is said that the pleasure of heavens, the pleasure of God lies at the feet of the mother. And it is also said that the importance of the mother in our life is so much that the direction that we take in life, the qualities that we have in our personality, the values that we cherish, everything, our good health, everything is given to us as a blessing by our mother. And so it is also said, the hand that rocks the cradle rules the world. This is the important role of a mother. So we need to understand that both a man and a woman have such important roles to play. The father has an equally important role. He implants the seed of life in the womb of the mother. He has the role of bringing life on this earth. And then the mother, she nourishes this baby in her womb. She takes care of it and gives birth to the child and predominantly raises the child. So here we see there is no comparison. In today's times, we talk of women empowerment and giving power to the woman and freedom to the woman. All these kinds of concepts, they come up when we don't have the right understanding towards the physical and emotional qualities of a man and woman. And therefore we end up with such kind of comparisons. How can we compare anything between a man and woman when they both are equally important and complementary to each other? The role that a man can play in life, a woman cannot play. So it is equally important. And the role that a mother or a woman can play, the man cannot play. So it is important in its own way. We cannot compare two things which have unique roles to play. It will be like comparing a rose to a lotus. If we have to ever make any comparisons in life, we can make comparison in life when there are two things similar to each other. We can compare a rose to a rose, we can compare a lotus to a lotus, but what a baseless thing to compare a rose to a lotus. They both are unique in their way, they both have their unique roles to play, they both have the unique beauty, they both have the unique objectives, so there is no comparison. So also a man and a woman both are unique in their own way and equally important. We cannot imagine a society, we cannot imagine creation, we cannot imagine the upbringing of children by any one person. They both have their due roles to play, and therefore such concepts where a woman, she attains her dignity, her self-respect and her greatness by following the steps of a man is baseless. A woman is great in her own right. Every person, every human being becomes great with the way he lives life, with the values he cherishes, and in the manner he plays the role that he is assigned in the best possible manner. That makes a person great, not by just following the footsteps of each other. So, we need to keep this thing in mind and have self-respect and feel the pride of being a woman. Feel the dignity of being a woman. Taking care of children, looking after the family is not a menial task as we see in today's times or forever. It is the woman who brings about values in the family. She brings about unity in the family. She brings about love in the family. So she has such an important role to play. How can we even look at that role as a role which is small in any manner, which is weak in any manner? Yes, we need to keep this in mind, that every woman has a right to live a dignified life. She should be respected at the physical level. She should be respected at the emotional level and at the intellectual level. She should be given the right education. She should be brought up in such a manner that she can stand on her own feet and face the ups and downs of life. She should be educated in the right manner. As far as these things are concerned, even a woman has equal importance to be given. And this we need to discuss today, because there has been a time, there has been a phase in this world where women have been mistreated, they have been neglected, they have been suppressed, and therefore this kind of a discussion has to be taken up. But otherwise, if we look at it from the human point of view, both a man and a woman are equally important, and both deserve to live a dignified, well-aware and intelligent life over here. So, having understood that there is a fundamental uniqueness of a man and woman to bring about, to extend the progeny of this creation of the human race, we must also look at another important factor to understand this shloka correctly, and that is, even though at the physical level, at the level of the roles that both of them have to play as far as the creation is concerned, we also need to understand that the goal of human life is common to all. The goal of human life is common to a man and common to a woman, and that is to realize the reality of this world, to realize the reality of the own self, and to understand the role of God in our life. and to see the unity that we are not separate from God. We are not dual from God. There is no duality. God has manifested as this creation, and we need to discover, we need to realize a unity. As the scripture says, Tattvamasi, as the scriptures relieve, Aham Brahmasmi, that I am that divinity, that life principle from which this entire universe has been created. So realizing that truth of the self is the ultimate goal of life. And that truth alone brings about or helps us unfold, discover that nature of fulfillment, that nature of contentment, that nature of pure existence. So we need to discover that reality of the self, and the coming together of a man and woman, the coming together of two such people, the unique people, is again another means to walk on this path of self-realization, to walk on this path of moksha, to walk on this path of gaining the real knowledge of life. So here we see that, as the scriptures tell us, that in life, when we take a human form, then fulfilling the four purusharthas of dharma, artha, kam and moksha alone fulfills the human life, because we ultimately realize our own self and the reality of this world. And therefore, when we speak of two people walking together, they should be looked upon as, or we should look each other. When we see a man and a woman together, they look at each other as partners in spiritual evolution. They are partners in spiritual progress. They are partners in helping each other walk on the path of spiritual evolution. And that is why we also have such terms in Hinduism. When a man, he addresses his wife, he says, she is my dharma patni. And it is also implied for the wife that her husband plays the role of not only fulfilling the extension of progeny in this society, but he also fulfills the responsibility of taking care of his wife physically, emotionally, and looking after her comforts, and also helping her, encouraging her to walk on the path of dharma, to walk on the path of righteousness. And both of them mutually help each other, support each other to walk on this path of spiritual evolution, to help each other grow. We all have our limitations, we all have our shortcomings, we all have our misunderstandings, we all have our faults, even at the level of values, at the level of various things that we cherish in life. We all have our shortcomings. And the beauty of this relationship of a husband and wife, of a man and woman, is that they both help each other to grow. They not only look after each other, they are not only sensitive to each other, they not only take care of each other selflessly, but they see to it that when the other person needs help, he is falling in some manner or he needs some guidance, then both are there to help each other. And both of them, they take the help of the scriptures, they take the help of masters, of a Sadguru, and walk on the path of dharma. And that path of dharma then leading to the path of moksha. So it is such a beautiful relationship, an institution of marriage where both of them are partners in spiritual evolution. And therefore, when we see that there is an attraction of a man and a woman, that attraction is natural at the physical level, because they are going to play the role of a mother and father. They have to give birth to a child. And it is said that any creation that is brought about, that creation is always brought about by joy, but as an expression of ananda. And therefore, this relationship should be of mutual love and respect, of mutual acceptance. And so, if there is an attraction between a man and woman, then it is natural, and we should not look upon it with an attitude of guilt, but we should look at it from the right understanding that this has a role to play in our journey onwards. And therefore, there is a message here that when we are seeking a life partner, when we are looking for a life partner, then our source of attraction, our inspiration of attraction, should not just be at the physical level. Even though that is important, there should be some kind of compatibility, there should be a sense of pleasantness, there should be a sense of acceptance. But here the priority is the gunas of a person, the qualities of a person. It is the qualities, the values, the knowledge, the intelligence of a person that ultimately leads us in life in success. It is not just the physical aspect. That is a very, very superficial aspect. But what is more important is the qualities of a person. Will that person be there with me during thick and thin? What is the understanding of that person towards my shortcomings, and what is my understanding towards a person in his shortcomings? So here we have two people who have to walk together, who wish to walk together, and therefore most important is to look at each other from the point of view of the qualities, the sanskars, the knowledge. And then here we walk on this path of life, leading each other on the path of dharma. So this is the right understanding of a relationship between a man and a woman. When this understanding is not there, then the outlook is always superficial. Then the outlook is not just superficial, but the outlook towards a man and a woman, or the looking at toward between a man and a woman is superficial. It can lead to either desperateness or a sense of guilt when we don't have this right kind of understanding. So have a healthy understanding. This is what the scriptures are saying. And so here the Acharya says that when we look at a woman only from the physical point of view, then it is a very superficial outlook. And therefore he says, Nari stana bharanabhi desham drishtva maga moha vesham. This is a very big delusion of how we look at each other only from the physical point of view. And to give up this kind of a moha, to give up this kind of a delusion, because this will only bring about a downfall, which we see in society today. When we don't have the right understanding of the two genders, it only brings about vices, it only brings about desperateness and crime in society. And so here the Acharya says that to negate this kind of a moha, etan mamsavasadi vikaram, the Acharya uses the pratipaksha bhavna. He gives us a tool to negate this kind of a moha. He says use the pratipaksha bhavna. Sometimes when we are very attached to something and we are very desperate towards something, when we look at something very superficially, we don't have the right understanding, then we must use the pratipaksha bhavna. That is, if we are attached to something, then we must look at the negative side of it so that we can dilute our attachment. And when we are not able to see the very significant role of something, the importance of something, then we must look at the positive aspects of it so that we can invoke that kind of a good quality in us. So here the Acharya says that why are you so deluded by the physical body of a woman, the femininity of a woman? First of all, have the right understanding, and if you don't have the right understanding, then see that the physical aspect of whether it is a woman or it is a man, it is just a packing. It is just the skin, it is just the packing which God has given to us to hold all the various other inner aspects of the body, the organs of the body, for them to function and to protect these organs of the body. So we have a physical aspect which takes care of the internal body. So this is just a packing. This is just a presentation so that we can move about in life in a protected manner. So why get fascinated, attracted and deluded by just the packing? And this packing is going to fade away in the course of time. This packing is going to die in time. It's going to get old. So what is more important for us? It's more important for us to value the values of life. It is more important to cherish the values of dharma. It is more important to cherish and look up to the real goal in life. Rest all is a superficial aspect. The body and the physical aspect, it's a very, very superficial level. So don't get entangled, don't get attracted and fascinated to the extent that this becomes a course of my desperation and deludes me that I cannot look beyond this physical aspect. I cannot look beyond this superficial aspect. So negate this delusion. Manasi vichintaya varam varam. Think about it deeply. Think about the in-depth goal of life. Think about the reality. Think about the role of this body. Think about what the role the body has to play in achieving this goal of life, and that is realizing the self, singing the glories of the Lord. As the Acharya says, Bhaj Govindam, Bhaj Govindam. This is not going to help me at the end of the day. All my superficial attractions, whether it is money, whether it is experiences in the world outside, whether it is the physical body, ultimately it is Bhaj Govindam that is going to bless me. So this was the message given to us in this shloka. Hari Om.